you don't see the red and the green and the moving because you don't pay attention. Welcome, everyone, to Sounds Like Liberty. I'm Nikki B, here as always with my lovely wife and co-host, Lizzie. How are we doing, Lizzie?
I'm doing all right.
Wife, Lizzie. Sleepy because it's Christmas time at UPS, Lizzie.
Yeah, that Lizzie.
She is that Lizzie indeed.
Yeah, but I'm happy to be here with all of you.
We're 1 week out from Christmas season, aren't we?
We are 1 week out from the Christmas season, I think.
Peak Christmas season, if you would say.
Our peak day is in theory sometime this week.
Fancy that.
You know, you got to get all those orders in early enough that the stuff can get delivered by Christmas.
I'm gonna miss those checks because we're poor right now.
Well, we are
getting poorer,
getting into the entrepreneurial vibe and figuring out how that works, and that means that we are shifting where our money's coming from.
We're hoping it works. Anyways, folks, we're, as always, here at the Launchpad Media, where we are always launching ideas in a direction. We have a fun little interview today. I was super stoked to get this one set up.
Yeah.
We have the one, the only, Mr. John Vibes.
Very, very cool.
I don't know if this will be as interesting to you as it was for me, but it's always fun for me to find someone who's a little bit more on the, well, I don't want to say the lefty side, but a little bit more on the...
Not as conservative with the social stuff?
Yeah. I like occasionally running across non-social conservatives.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I don't have as much, influence in the party life. Although it did occur to me after the fact when we talked about it that I have technically been to a rave or two. They were anime convention raves. So I'm not sure that counts.
I absolutely brought that up during the show, and you didn't. I don't recall you having much input on that.
Yeah, I totally missed my cue there. Apparently.
Yeah, I have no exposure to raves, and I am saddened by it.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, let's say, folks, as always, if you want to support the show, head on over to supportsll.com where you can join the Freedom Choir, which is our members organization where you get to go, hey, fuck Patreon. Give us money directly. We get most of the cut other than the processing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have all of the bonus content. If you're in there, is there almost 20 episodes of Year Round Tree that we've done where we just talk about Christmas movies?
Yep.
Which I'm telling you right now, you could just put those on Christmas Day, and
it gives you that Christmas vibe. You could get some Christmas drink ideas out of there, some ugly sweater ideas if you can put up with Nick's ridiculous.
It's not like all of them are hyper violent,
but and I
or overtly sexual,
right? Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good place, and
we try to keep the content going.
And we can definitely use the support right now. Also, so we're gonna give out a pitch for, as we always do, to one of our good friends, Miss Sherry Voluntary.
Yeah, cool Aunt Sherry.
Cool Aunt Sherry. Liz, I don't think she's just older enough than us to call cool Aunt Sherry.
Well, no, she's not like an older aunt. She's like that aunt that's like your dad's little sister, and she takes you to all the cool concerts and stuff.
I guess. Look, Sherry's never showed up at our house with crystal meth.
Well, no, that would not be a cool aunt thing to do. That would be a weird aunt thing to do.
Well, our definitions of cool aunt apparently are different.
Apparently.
At any rate. Yeah, go check out the Sherry Voluntary Show. I know she's got some things in the works that I'm not at liberty to discuss on air.
Well, that's very exciting, but I did hear one heck of an episode.
Yes, Mr. Vermin Supreme.
Mr. Vermin Supreme. Yeah, you guys need to look up that feed and listen to that episode right now. I'm just telling you, it is worth it. Totally worth it.
Did you think it was that crazy? I honestly thought it was one of his more reserved interviews.
Oh no, it wasn't even that. It was interesting to me to hear him, actually give his platform, actually have the conversation, because there's just a lot of stuff going on when he's doing his thing. So it was cool to hear.
So, anyways, folks, why don't we drop this first song and get on into this interview?
Enjoy.
She was a voodoo Indian, voodoo Indian. Voodoo Indian, voodoo Indian.
Well, welcome, Mr. John, to He Sounds Like Liberty podcast. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm not at work yet,
Here we go.
so that's good. I'm having conversations with people that sound interesting.
Yeah. Not a bad gig.
And I will say, I'm not crazy familiar. Like, I haven't gone deep down the John Vibes rabbit hole, though I know you have a bit of a mystique that precedes you. I do have some questions for you, because I feel like you live this alternate life that I wish I'd lived, because it looks so cool. But I never lived anywhere near a city and would have not known what to do with that in life if I'd had it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the life that you've lived?
Well, I mean, what part of it specifically?
Well, even just looking at all of the imagery that you use, I get the impression that you spent some time around rave culture.
Yeah, that was kind of, I guess, where my adult journey began, and that is the topic of my newest book that I wrote when I thought I was going to die when I had cancer. But yeah, so I kind of fell into that world by accident. I was just kind of, actually, to make the story a little bit more interesting, when I got into that, I was working at a funeral home. Actually, I was going to school to become an apprentice mortician.
See, Liz, I could have been this guy. Like, these are the things that I wanted to do with my life, and he's done them all, apparently.
Yeah, it was I was a much different person when I got into that, and of course, like the rave scene changed me in a lot of ways. But I was, apprentice mortician doesn't really pay that well, and honestly, mortician doesn't pay that well either, unless you're like in the family, and that's what I learned quite later on. But
yeah,
I was doing that, but it doesn't pay much, so I was hustling on the side, like weed and maybe e-pills and stuff like that, and we would go to these shows, and by some strange twist of fate, I ended up kind of being connected to or getting connected to some people who were involved with hosting these events and organizing them and stuff. And coincidentally, at the time, I was working the door at this hole in the wall bar just on the outskirts of Baltimore with this shady ass owner who was willing to do anything to make money. And he heard that we were going to raves on the weekends, and he, wanted to bring that there. So then just one thing led to another, and I started this kind of crazy journey. But it wasn't necessarily all that fun on the way too, because it's super crazy. And that is kind of why I thought it was worth writing a story about, because there's a whole lot of drama involved. And
well, I get the impression that that's part of that whole, just that time period. Because I know I've listened to a few people talk about their experiences and write books on it. And the first thing I think is, there's no way any of this is true. Like, this has just got to be completely made up. But no matter the end of the story is always, it was a crazy time. So
yeah, I mean, there's two different worlds that kind of exist in the rave culture, or at least two. But the two that I have seen is like the people that come out to have a good time and stuff, and that have lives outside of that, and then the people that is their life, that is, whether they're a DJ or a dealer or a promoter, or just somebody who is there to escape all the time. in the world where people are there all the time, there is a lot of crazy stuff that other people don't see, and there's a lot of like even the drug aspect. Like a lot of people don't understand how deeply drugs are involved with so many of the people that organize the stuff, and that was the basically what I have revealed recently. And I don't really think that it is snitching on the culture per se, because I think that I only give myself up for one. And this is stuff that, you know, people have gotten busted for this. I'm pointing to things that have already happened. Like many of the things that I was involved with, you can actually just look up the news stories. I was
going to say public records request and it's all there.
Yeah, I mean, not even that. I mean, you could go onto YouTube and search God's Basement, and that was one of the venues that I was involved with. That was in the basement of a church in Philly, and you'll see the NBC 10 investigation where they sent news reporters with, you know, butterfly wings and Care Bear backpacks, dressed as ravers, to go in there with hidden cameras and catch us having a good time, and then put us on the 10 o'clock news. And the clips of that are still on YouTube and everything. So a lot of, you know, the things that I've been through were very much public record.
Yeah. I'm curious, does that factor at all in the way, like, I know you through libertarian circles. Is that kind of how you got tied in with those people, or is it something that happened kind of independently? Or, I mean, I'd imagine it has to at least be a part of it.
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I've always had, I don't really subscribe to any particular philosophy, because I don't really like labels so much, but I have been very, very close friends with the libertarian movement.
Yeah.
And it started definitely through me fighting off the cops in the like local areas with the venues that I was involved with, because we really did not take the situations lightly or roll over. Many of the people involved with, you know, this stuff, they try to, there's a term that's used that's escaping me right now, but it's basically, you know, you try to respectability politics. Mm-hmm. That's the term. So like a lot of people involved with this culture try to put on this professional front, act like it's all about the music. We're just basically the same thing as a rock concert, which to an extent we are, but it's entirely different culture.
Yeah, and the Grateful Dead was about the music too.
Exactly. I mean, even though I love Grateful Dead music,
I'm sure some people it was, but that's exactly the whole of the story.
Exactly, 100%. And with the Grateful Dead, the guy who built their massive wall of sound, Oswald Stanley, he was responsible for basically supplying the country with acid for many years. And that was what was happening on their tours. So this has always been like a part of this. But, you know, everybody tries to put on a professional front, and we weren't. We were, you know, one of the clubs that I was involved with was actually suing the cops for harassment because they kept on trying to bother us. And that was kind of how I got tied in with the libertarian community. And then I realized that a lot of them, you know, didn't like war and stuff like that. And I'm also very untrusting of any kind of government services or anything like that. I don't think they're necessarily well-intentioned, even though I tend to agree with a lot of the ends that a lot of the socialists want and stuff like that. I don't really agree with the means that they try to achieve it, you know, because I don't trust the government to handle anything.
That's probably most people. Like, I want everyone to be fed and clothed and housed and all that shit too. You know, stealing money to make that happen probably isn't my way I would go about that, but...
Exactly, and having these like thieving, warmongering bastards to be the ones to
do the
exactly, and decide how it all works. I don't think so.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, because when you break it down, I mean, you don't want to be a thief yourself. So what do? You go and find the best thief in the place and have them do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that sucks is they never sped it all what they say they're going to, and
yeah.
so I definitely have always, so I've kind of gravitated towards a lot of libertarian circles over the years, although they have gotten way more complicated and way more divided over the past couple of years.
I'm actually new to the whole quote unquote libertarian thing. I'll tell people I've been an anarchist since birth. Like I was whatever bone that you have that makes you want to, or that makes you listen to authority. I have never had that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something,
Same.
something that I was born without. I will try and make myself an authority if I need to push past authority. What's funny is like I kind of came into the whole libertarian thing through like the Tom Woods camp, which is the more conservative side of things. And
Interesting.
I am not a conservative. Like I always joke, like I'm a fucking, bisexual man married to a black woman that's really into fucking psychedelic drugs. So as long as you guys are okay with that, we're cool. But
Yeah.
And
I feel like in the, I didn't mean to cut you
no, you're
off.
good, man. I ramble.
I was going to say, I feel like back a couple years ago that the kind of conservative libertarian culture was a little bit more open and accepting to that kind of stuff. But since recently, I feel like there's just the social justice issue has like taken the center stage. You know what I'm saying? And they have like picked definite sides. It seems. You know what I'm saying? Like there's like a particular viewpoint that a lot of them have on that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, personally, I'll be I oddly fall more on the conservative side when it comes to the social justice issue. But in the way it's like I understand where they're coming from, but the only ways that they have to get their social justices are bad ways to get them. And I think the thing that I've seen since I've been involved, like doing around the Libertarian Party, is the fact that there are like open socialists, like advocating, and in some cases like straight up tankies calling themselves libertarians, and that I think is forced the hand, perhaps, of a lot of the right-leaning libertarians. Like, whoa, that's we can't be that, and it's frustrating. I get that, but in the same vein, like I'm one of those people who'll sit there and say, like, if you believe in closed borders, you're not a libertarian. You can't be. Like,
yeah,
it's forced aggression. Sorry.
Exactly. And I'm definitely in a similar boat with that. And like, it was weird because, when I definitely have always kind of been more on, I guess, the left side of things, or at least considered myself that. Mm-hmm. But like,
I still do.
Yeah, same here. And but I started questioning the whole dynamic of that and just ideology in general over the past couple of years. I mean, I went to Occupy Baltimore, the local one, not the New York one. And at that time, I was thinking like I was going to meet my people. You know what I mean? And I got there and they were like, the government needs to do this and the government needs to do that. And I was like, what? I was like, we need to burn this shit down. You know what I mean? And they weren't about that. And so then I went home from that and I was like, man, that was weird.
Well, from an outside perspective, it was always crazy to me as you're watching the Occupy thing and then you're watching kind of simultaneously but separate the whole Tea Party thing. And you're like, how are you guys like not joining sides, just realizing that what you hate is the government? Like both of you. That's what you're against. And meanwhile, you're out here fighting each other. Like, yeah, the banks do suck. And the banks suck because of the government.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like, I started seeing like those, both of those sides kind of having truths, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then just getting so stuck in their dogma that they just...
Just casino.
religious background at all?
I have like a very similar perspective on spirituality, where I like.
The reason I ask is because like I grew up Roman Catholic, which is lots and lots and lots of rules, and there's a certain degree which I think if there had ever been part of me that liked authority, that would have completely stripped me of any desire for that. And so for me, like the whole government thing, I look at the same way I look at that is it's just anything that starts smelling of ideology like that really, really turns me off. And that's what I said. I was just kind of curious because I know that's the thing. Like nothing passes the smell test of, joining teams, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a perspective that I've kind of adopted over the years that me and Derek Rose in our first book together, The Conscious Resistance, we called explorative agnosticism, which is basically the idea that like I think a whole bunch of crazy stuff about the world and what we can't see and what goes on beyond the five senses and what happens when we die. And it might change like from this week to the next, or, when I have a conversation with somebody and I'm not locked into it and I don't expect anybody else to subscribe to it because I know that it can't be proven anyway.
Just imagining you can even have all of the data to make a reasonable approximation. I mean, that's one of the things like
considering too.
I know I talk about this to death, but it's one of the things that like I think people give Thaddeus Russell a lot of shit because he's what do you call it?
Relativist, or he's not an objectivist or whatever.
Well, it's the post whatever it is.
Oh, postmodernist.
Postmodernist.
I agree with him about a lot of that shit. Well, honest.
The thing is, he's wrong about a lot of it, and like he's calling it something that it's not. But I think it's not even him. I think it's the left has adopted the philosophy in an inaccurate way. And I think if you actually
I'm not a moral relativist or anything, but I do agree with him on questioning like just the concepts that's created by human language.
And that's the thing. That is the part that he gets right. It's just for me, it's always he makes the jump, and the jump is where the problem is. The jump is from I can't see reality to reality doesn't exist, and that is a gigantic jump for me. Like, yeah, I think that because we all have our own existences in the world that we can never truly understand someone else's position or can never live someone else's position it's going to be at the very best kind of like an impressionist view of reality. You can never see it for what it really is. That doesn't mean it ain't there. And that's a big deal to me.
I would agree with that assessment. Yeah.
And the whole since nothing is real, then these are the conclusions you draw. Like, well, those are really shitty conclusions because you have a really shitty premise. That's just not right. I watched Michael Malice chew him up the last time he was on there, and I loved it for just that reason. It was like, because he called him on the fact that you just don't understand this philosophy you purport to understand. It's like stick to history, Thaddeus. I've gotten sidetracked though.
I don't know. Like, I haven't read the original sources on any of that shit. You know what I mean?
I went to college for philosophy, so I've got some Derrida and Kant and all that shit upstairs. I took a semester of phenomenology, is what it's actually called, and it's the philosophical study of existence. Essentially, it's kind of the thing that takes place after existentialism, I guess, but it's all of the source material for postmodernism is what it comes from.
Interesting.
Yeah, and what I will say is, even if you're a really, really smart person, to give you a frame of reference, there's a sentence in my Derrida book that goes on for 4 pages. Like,
interesting.
It's almost like following, like you forget what he was talking about by the end of the sentence, let alone the end of the paragraph. A lot of it has to do with it's like translated, I think, from German. So it's like weird translations and shit like that. But it's incredibly complicated stuff about the most philosophical of philosophical ideas. which is I think why I liked it when I was into it, because it is just like, let's ponder existence, which is also why I like psychedelic drugs.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I dig it.
So, now I'm curious, like, how did you kind of fall into the whole drugs thing? Is that something you grow up in a place where that was just something that was normal, or
No, I mean, I grew up in a like extremely repressed household where I just hated life and I just did drugs.
okay,
And then like that was kind of the deal. So I was like super familiar with drugs by the time I started getting.
what kind of area did you grow up in and kind of come of age in?
Well, I moved around a lot.
Okay.
But at first, when I was younger, I lived with my grandparents and my mom until like we moved out with her and my stepdad, who I consider my dad. Part.
Yeah.
I was in around kindergarten or something like that, and then after that, we moved out on our own into like an urban area in like Philadelphia area. And I was like, 4th, 5th grade. Then we moved down to like the suburbs outside of Maryland or outside of Baltimore after that. And that was kind of where I went.
Okay, so like suburban kind of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm always interested in like how that exists for other people, because like I grew up in a very small rural area, and so I have a very specific idea on like people that do get involved with drugs, how that happens. That I know it's different than a lot of other people see it.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, essentially, I can tell you the people that do drugs in my town, it is 100% just, you were doing drugs, it was because you had a really, really shitty upbringing. That's pretty much it. It changed a little bit more towards high school. Like, probably like later in high school, you'd find a little bit more experimentation. But the people that were like into it, like it just meant problems at home. And you just felt bad for those people.
Yeah.
I guess smoking a lot of pot at 14 probably doesn't spell the best living situation, because somebody would probably pay attention to that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, and the reason I bring it up is because there's an odd tie-in where like I was well into my adult life before I realized anybody could be into the Grateful Dead at all. They were always just the band that the kids that did drugs listened to. So I've always attributed Grateful Dead shirts to like, oh, that's the drug dealer.
Well, I mean, those were my friends and stuff.
Well, don't get me wrong, I had enough of them.
I was one of the goth kids.
I would have
who hung out with the hippies.
Well,
so it was like obvious why I was there.
Yeah. I hung out with goth kids, like I think in middle school, and then it became untenable, I think, to hang out with those kids.
What do you mean by that? Untenable?
For as much as I disliked authority, I did really like the what am I looking for here? I did like the position that being one of the smart kids got me.
I see.
And so
I see.
Hanging out with the goth kids kind of put that in jeopardy, because they didn't do homework and stuff like that. Not that I did much homework, but at least enough to maintain my A's.
Yeah. Understandable.
Which is mostly because I like being able to flaunt, well, you can't say shit to me because I'm an A student. Piss off.
Yeah.
There was a certain freedom that afforded me, I guess. And, at that level, you don't have to work very hard for that. So, but yeah, and later on in life, like my daughter's godfather is a big Grateful Dead person. He toured followed him around on tour selling fucking grilled cheese back in the 90s. And he was always
people still do that.
Oh, I know.
That's awesome.
He's more than once made up his ticket money selling grilled cheese at the when they come around to like doing the fish shows and stuff like that.
That's hilarious.
That's where he eventually got into. But it's also funny because my buddy, who's my daughter's godfather, is he tells me stories about how he used to travel from show to show, and like in his van, he's listening to NoFX on the stereo and tripping out all the people that were traveling with him. So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was always just weird. Like he's a weird cultural mashup, and like he's really into the whole modern what do you call it? The whole modern jam band scene in general.
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious if like through your travels, you kind of ever fallen in with that crowd. Is it a completely different thing than like the rave scene of the '90s, or?
It's a little bit different. But there's a lot of overlap, especially now. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these, festivals are blending the stuff together. But it is, some people go to both, but it is quite a different crowd a lot of times.
I'm curious, like, what do you see like as a difference between them? Just culture itself, or reasoning for them existing? I mean, to me, the whole modern festival scene is just so corporatized at this point. It's kind of a little frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really tell much of a difference between them aside from like the music they're into, really.
Okay, interesting. And there's that much of a difference between EDM and like the more jammy.
Yeah, because a lot of EDM people just really don't like that music at all.
Really?
Yeah,
that's interesting to me.
I like it.
I was gonna say, what kind of tastes are yours?
Oh man, I listen to like everything from like old hip hop.
You strike me as a guy who's kind of probably throughout his life found himself in more than one place.
Yeah. I still listen to a lot of metal now, but I can't do like the vocals anymore. So I listen to instrumental metal when I write.
What kind of what kind of vocals is it that you have a problem with? Like the screaming stuff, or
just all the screaming and stuff, and vocals in general. I don't listen to a lot of stuff with vocals anymore because most of the time I'm writing when I'm listening to music.
The machine elves ruined you, huh?
Well, it's just it's a lot better to write without the words because you don't got shit in your head.
I do know. I've had to spent the better part of this year doing write-ups on music with like libertarian themes, and it definitely is a lot easier listening to like instrumental metal and stuff like that than something that's actually trying to say something while you're trying to write about something else.
Exactly.
You just find your thoughts drifting away from like, no, I need to keep in this idea, not that idea, this one. So you have a book coming out that's kind of on a very specific thing. You have written other books in the past, though. It seems like quite a few of them. I mean, is that what you'd consider yourself as an author, or?
Well, I mean, that is not really. If that was all I did, I would be really, really poor because people don't really buy books like that, or at least the kind of books that I used to write. This recent book has done a lot better because it's a story. The other books were like anarchism, activist stuff, and unfortunately, people don't really like to learn. You know what I mean? People would rather be entertained with a story. So I've kind of like figuring out how to combine those two ideas, and so I released the book about my life in the rave culture and stuff a couple months ago, and there's also going to be a mobile game coming out based on the story as well.
All you people in your mobile games nowadays.
Hey man, it's a big thing.
My buddy, one of my other buddies, is doing a mobile game, and I'm just like, why is everybody doing mobile games all of a sudden?
Is it Davi?
I don't even know what the hell that means.
Well, Davi Barker is also a part of this. So like, there's this dude that he is an anarchist from he lives in Bali, and his company is based in Bali.
Okay.
And he has this mobile app that he's developing, and he has brought other people kind of in the community on board as writers. So I'm not sure, maybe the person you're talking about is a part of that too, or it's something entirely
not, but that is interesting to know. Now, my buddy Luke Tatum is doing one called Dummy Corporation. And
That seems cool.
what's that?
That seems cool.
Yeah, the idea is you run essentially like a KFC that that is a front for the federal government.
Okay.
And you're trying to level up as a spy for the government.
That sounds pretty hilarious.
It is. The whole thing was sparked. He's like, well, there used to be this chicken store, and it was there forever, but nobody ever went into the place. So we always wondered how the hell it made money, and so we just assumed it was like a front for some type of government entity. And he's kind of turned that into a way to, I guess, spread the libertarian message a little bit, or at the very least, spread distrust in the government, utilizing a mobile app.
I dig it. But yeah, so I'm thinking about stories kind of instead of just the typical kind of preachy philosophical format. And then the next thing I'm working on is a sci-fi series.
That's way up my alley. We actually our episode that we just released today is with an author who he calls it a thriller, but I just wanted it to be Johnny Mnemonic. All I kept thinking when he was describing it. Was it not one of the best movies of the 90s?
That was a good one.
My wife has never seen it, and I'm like, you missed out.
I have to. I mean, you had me at Keanu Reeves, so
the whole 90s cyberpunk thing was the best. Whatever happened?
Definitely.
Why did that world not come true? Or did it?
Yeah, I don't know. We definitely got a really, really, bad version of it.
What's funny is we got all of that stuff, but it doesn't look like we thought it would look. I think it's probably the bigger thing. We got dystopia. It looks prettier. There's that. Something.
Hey, how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportSLL.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
So I guess what do you do? What is your career per se? Do you have a career per se?
I have the books make a little bit of money, you know what I mean? But mainly the articles that I write are what pays the bills.
Okay, what do you write for?
Well, for a long time, I was writing for the Free Thought Project until they got shut down by Facebook. And I was also writing for the Anti-Media until they got shut down by Facebook.
Dang.
And currently, I am writing for The Mind Unleashed and Truth Theory. And occasionally, I write for a crypto website called Crypto Globe. But a lot of their stuff is more analysis and stuff. So occasionally, I'll be able to find a tip on their board, you know what I mean, that we have internally that I am knowledgeable enough to write about, but that doesn't happen all the time.
Interesting.
That is cool.
I can't imagine writing for a living. It sounds terrible.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I at first I don't know. It was weird. I wrote my first book and then I was trying to figure out ways to promote it, and then I got arrested. So I had nothing better to do with my time because I got arrested out front of my job and they fired me. Yeah.
That's usually not the place for that to happen.
Yeah. He pulled me over, pulling into my job, man. And then, wanted to cause a scene.
And he probably laughed about it with his cop buddies later that night. We just fucked this dude. His whole life.
Yeah.
Down the drain thanks to us.
I don't know though, because he had a pretty interesting ride with all the lectures I was giving him and shit. There. And that was like when I was in this like particular phase where I was like just discovering like certain philosophical ways to describe like why he was a scumbag, and you know, telling him all this stuff from the back of the cage and stuff. But they ended up keeping me in there for quite a while, so just in the holding cell before I even got my papers to leave. But anyway, yeah, so I had a lot of free time after that because I had lost my job, and I think around that same time the club that I was dealing with for many years got shut down by the cops too. So I started writing articles for free to just promote for my book. To promote for my book, I'd have like the little bio at the bottom, just with like one line about my book, hoping that people would click on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a couple months, and then a couple sites offered to start paying me for my writing.
Very cool.
I mean, you're somebody with a name, and that for a lot of sites is an important thing. Like when you bring your own cachet with you to a degree.
Yeah, I think so. I think in like the fact that I already had a book out kind of helped, even though like that book is not that great. I need to work on that. Like
I've heard of you long before I'd ever heard you.
Really?
Yeah,
really? That's awesome.
You're just kind of a name that floats out in the ether, like, oh, it's John Vibes.
Well, I rarely do audio or video stuff, and a lot of that is because this good internet that I have is a new development, and out here in the woods, we were not getting that great of internet, so most of the content that I put out was just, the books and the articles, and occasionally I would do a public talk that got recorded, or I'd do a podcast, but
yeah, it
was kind of every now and then.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, I caught you on Punk Rock Libertarians because I like listening to those guys. And I know that I wasn't even sure you would be able to, because I know they do specifically, local people, because it's of the way they do their show.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I haven't done theirs in a while because it's just been hard to get down there now that I've started doing shows again. And because I was on there a lot when I was sick, and I really did not have a whole lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And now, since they do their shows on Sundays, and I'm usually out vending at two different raves, Friday, Saturday with my books, I'm usually not trying to drive an hour on Sunday.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, that's something that also interests me. It's the fact that, like, so is that something that still goes on? Like, to me, it just seems so anachronistic,
Well, I mean, I have friends that do the more mainstream stuff, and I also have friends that do the underground stuff. Like last weekend, I went to, this mainstream dubstep party, and then we went to a warehouse down the street when that closed down at 2 a.m. and I was there until 7 a.m. And Saturday, there was a club in DC that I went to that was open till like 4 a.m.
See, that's so weird to me. Like, I feel like this is something that you would hear about happening. Is it just a very insular group or an insular kind of community because of, certain things that kind of go along with it? Or
nobody cares anymore. And I say that in the best way, the best possible way. Like, I feel like the hysteria is done. I feel like Silicon Valley is bragging about their microdosing. Weed is pretty much legal in a lot of places where this stuff's going on. And the cops, honestly, can't be bothered.
Black people,
Unfortunately. But the other thing is like the heroin epidemic is what they're super focused on. And
that ain't got nothing to do with you guys.
And yeah, we're a whole different situation. And I don't think that they're taking the whole rave hysteria as seriously as they were a couple of years ago. So I'm not really I do parties at warehouses, and I'm not even really worried about it. And even with the book I have out, although I don't do what I used to do at the parties anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm retired from that, but I don't have a problem doing underground events because I really don't think that it's a danger anymore like it was. And I'm kind of in the minority of people are still scared. Promoters are still scared.
Interesting. Like I said, I mean, to me, it's just weird because, I mean, like I've been a musician for, I don't know, fucking 20 years. And like, it's just it made sense that I wouldn't hear about it when I was younger because I just lived in such a rural area that like it would have been a barn party and everyone would have just called it a barn party back then. You know, but I do live in what would theoretically be considered a major U.S. city now, and I've never once.
What city's that?
I live in Cleveland. You know,
oh yeah, I threw a rave in Cleveland, or was it Columbus? Hold on, let me see.
Columbus might make more sense. But
Columbus is a little more hip than Cleveland, to be honest.
It was at a Party Hoppers. Have you ever heard of that?
I have no idea what the hell that is. It's just so weird.
It's like, kind of like a Chucky. It's kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese or Discovery Zone.
That's amazing.
It's super weird. It's like, so I've been tied into music for so many years, and yet I've never kind of come across people that were tied into that world. And mind you, like my you know, I've got a deadhead friend that's still into that whole scene. Like it feels like at some point I would stumble across somebody in that world, and it's just never happened to me. It's odd to me, I guess. Liz, do you know a whole lot of ravers and you're not telling me?
Nope. I probably know fewer.
It's definitely an underground kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It was in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they need that. That place sucks.
Yeah. See, it was my friends that I did it with, they live in Columbus.
Okay.
And that's what I was.
So I'm curious.
So yeah, that happens everywhere.
So I'm curious in like the size of these events. Is like, if you noticed like motion in that regards, like that the more like they've grown, they've shrank, it fluctuates kind of independently of things.
It definitely fluctuates. It's because there's so many different people will come out in large numbers and then they'll get bored, or they'll grow up and they'll, get a house, get a job, and they'll only go out to like, one party every now and then, or they'll go into recovery with drugs and they'll think that that's one of the people, places, and things that they need to avoid, and they get away from the situation. That happens too. I don't necessarily agree with that perspective because I don't necessarily agree with that NA perspective, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, and that would be another question. I mean, what have your personal experiences kind of been with the drugs over the years? Obviously you're involved in what you're involved in. Do you see drugs as something that some people choose to use in an inappropriate way? Is that being an issue, or do you just kind of not see them as an issue at all?
It's an issue, but I don't think it's only a little bit more of an issue than it is anywhere else, because of the fact that it's kind of a safe place for it, Yeah. But because of the substances that are involved, like usually you don't have that much of a problem there, but there are a lot of people in the community that are drawn to that kind of lifestyle because they like to get messed up. And people who like to get messed up are more likely to get involved with opiates and negative stuff like that. And there have been a lot of people close to me who have passed away, and a lot of people in the scene who regularly do pass away on a regular basis. I think that's happening all over the country, and regardless of whether it's a music scene or a family or anything like that. Yeah. But I do think that there is, because of the nature of this culture, it's very accepting. And I think that we attract a lot of people with drug problems and a lot of people with mental illness. And I have both of those things, so I can say that freely. Yeah. But there are a lot of people just like me who have found a home in this place where we're not generally welcome in society. And I think that is the truth to that there is a prevalence in that there. But I don't think that it is
More a
anything
correlation than a causation thing.
Exactly. I don't think it's anything about the scene that causes or encourages that per se. I just think that it attracts the type of people like me that kind of can have issues with that kind of stuff.
Well,
you know?
I mean, in the way that I would see it, I mean, even the type of drugs that I would even associate with that world, they're drugs that tend to have a way of self-regulating, I guess. Like
yeah.
when you start having a problem with it, you know you start having a problem with it because it starts getting to be not a good time, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And there is definitely a lot of self-regulation in that community. And I get into some of that stuff in the book, like the people who cut things with stuff, how you find out if it's cut. You know, and I don't put that in like a how-to. I kind of like weave it into the story, so it's interesting. You know what I mean?
There was this one time that we
exactly, and that those things do happen. But I think that this crowd is super informed in comparison to your average person. And when I say informed, like informed about the proper way to take drugs safely, but as I said, the thing that really is the issue is that there's a lot of mental illness in the community, and there's a lot of isolated people who that's the only place they feel like home. And because of that, there can be a lot of people who you see having more serious drug problems.
Well, and that's something. So do you think that area necessarily has more people with mental illness? Or do you think, I mean, to me, it almost seems like mental illness is just a byproduct of whatever bullshit the world is now. Like everybody, like this just seems like across the board, there's more mental illness, and that maybe that was just a natural thing that happened along the same time frame that you're seeing more mental illness creep up and into the world.
I think that that's definitely the case. I just also think that accepting communities that are accepting have a lot of catch a lot of the people that are rejected elsewhere that might be a little bit more severe. And I've even seen this in activist circles, to be honest with you too. Like we got some particular crazies as well that wouldn't last a day out, you know, amongst the sheep.
Well, most people that are fully there and well-adjusted probably aren't choosing political activism, honestly. Like you're probably doing something like participating in life other than spending your time on the internet yelling at people about shit. So
yeah. So I
there's a natural curve that I guess I see there anyways.
That is true too. I guess I just happen to gravitate around all these crazy ass circles. I mean, they're
like I know that like for me, like my ANCAP fam on the internet are definitely people I tend to feel at home with, and that is part of the reason that like I spend the time that I do there, because these people at least seem to get me in some fundamental way that a lot of other people don't. So, if nothing other than the outsider mentality is what brought me there in the first place.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about some of these realms that I gravitate towards too.
Well, you know, the goth kid, as long as that's in your past.
Exactly.
You know, that'll do weird things.
You just might find there's better things ahead than any you leave behind. Oh yeah. When you feel like the whole wide world's breathing down your neck, and you're playing a losing game due to a stacked deck, throw your gaze through the universe, widen your frame of mind. There's better things ahead than any you leave behind. Oh yeah. Both hope and fear find ways to multiply.
So to kind of put it out out there, what is the name of the book? I don't know that you've actually said that, and where can people get it?
Oh, yeah. Paper Squares and Purple Stars, My Life as a Rave Outlaw, and you can pick it up at raveoutlaw.com.
Okay. And when is the audiobook available? Because I don't fucking read.
I am working on that. I had a something worked out where I was going to have that done, and then it fell through. I don't really want to do it myself because there are a bunch of different gendered voices in there, and I would rather a professional be doing that.
Oh, well, hit me up later.
Huh?
So then hit me up later.
Really?
Yeah, I've been looking to get my breakout on a full book. I've done a little bit of voice work in the past. So.
All right, well, we'll talk then.
And it would be an excuse for me to have to actually read the book.
Nice. I dig it.
So, well, right on. Paper Squares and Purple Stars. Did I miss any words there, Liz? You're the one taking notes.
Nope.
You've also been very quiet. You've actually pushed the mic away from your face.
That's more to do with my companion over here than my actual involvement in the conversation.
To leave. John, do you have any gremlins of your own yet?
No, not yet.
They're awesome, but they're something else.
Yeah, not really sure, that's going to be happening in the foreseeable future.
No, man, it's cool. I'm busting your balls about it because mine is just standing right here, forcing my wife to move the microphone in the studio. Did you even listen to the podcast, Liz? You didn't chime in all that much.
I was listening. It's a very interesting conversation. I also don't have a lot of personal encounters with that sort of world. So it's just interesting to hear it talked
Liz
about.
Grew
honestly,
up in a
super conservative
Baptist world.
Very sheltered. But yeah, no, it's really interesting subject. I'm excited that there's a book I can read about it now.
Damn Skippy.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that it definitely gives a really in-depth, honest look into, the behind the scenes of that world that a lot of people who even go out to the events on a regular basis, and even some of the DJs that were booked, were saying that it was shocking to see,
an honest portrayal.
Some of the things that take place. And the other thing that is about it is I come at it from a very, I don't try to take credit for anything. And it's a very, I'm a very insecure character in the book. You know what I'm saying? Because that was kind of the situation
not to try and out anybody. What is your perspective on some of the other people that have tackled the subject? What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I mean, the one is a freaking murderer. And who else is there? I mean, really, the only person that has, the only person that has really wrote about this is the former partner and friend of Michael Allig, who killed a drug dealer because he owed him money. Mm-hmm. And that was this thing that happened in New York 20 years ago. And and that was made into a movie where Macaulay Culkin played him and smoked crack and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's crazy.
He seems crazy. And when I was referencing it earlier, he's specifically who I had in mind.
I was going to say that was literally that film was the thing that I thought of when.
And I've listened to him on that guy on a couple podcasts. I can't even remember his name. I don't know that I care what his name is.
Michael Allig is his name.
But he just struck me as just being completely fucking bonkers.
See, when I pitched this to a bunch of different literary agents, thousands of which rejected this, probably because of there's a lot of F words in there. There's a lot of drug use in there, to the point where a literary agent is probably going to look at this and be like, this is trash. But in the pitch, it was this is kind of like Party Monster, except for more intelligent people that aren't like super self-absorbed and like entirely toxic.
Because
But
that was the other half. Like that whole thing seemed like it just seemed like he was trying to suck his own dick for all the people he knew the whole time. Like, oh yeah, I was the
and
center of this thing, and like everything revolved around me in this world. And you're like, okay.
I have very close friends that went to his shows that were involved with various deals with him and stuff, and none of them have nice things to say.
There you go.
Well, at least we got the nice guy to talk to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's weird, and it's weird and disappointing that nobody else has done it since that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what has come to represent our culture for the past 10 years.
Well, and I think it's because, like, I don't know that there's a huge thirst for it. There'd be the curiosity, and once that curiosity's kind of sated, he just became the gospel on it. This is what that world is. And
yeah, exactly.
You just kind of accept that. So
yeah, and a lot of people there. That was like I think he defined an era more so than anything.
Yeah.
But I don't think that there has really been much of a representation for this culture since that. And I hope that this, surpasses the popularity of that. Hopefully, someday.
I mean, I guess if nothing else, like it partially because of my understanding of that whole thing, like you just kind of got this idea that there was a finality and that the era is the movement. Like it was just something that happened and then it ended. Like I would have, other than you telling me, would have never have any idea that this is something like that still goes on.
Yeah, and it never really went away, but it has like fluctuated in its popularity over the years and the people that have contributed to it. But it definitely is still going on.
Do you think like the big name DJs like performing at casinos and shit like that, making crazy money, has affected like the popularity of it as well? Or is that kind of also its own sort of thing?
A little bit of both, because the thing is like the people that go out to see those big name DJs, most of the time, like they don't want to go to a grimy warehouse for some DJ they never heard of,
Yeah.
Although sometimes we put the big club DJs in those grimy places, it doesn't really work like that often anymore.
Yeah.
Just because of how ridiculous the fees for a lot of these. I was
gonna say, what is
got.
Steve Aoki like $200,000 an appearance just to show up now?
Exactly. But like the old school people, I have a show in DC in 2 weeks or a week and a half now with Frankie Bones, who is one of the originators of the rave scene, who coined the term plur, which is peace, love, unity, and respect, which is like the ethos of the,
I like that word, that term. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's like the thing. I mean, it's not really much of a thing anymore, but when I was going, it was like the thing. And now that I'm, getting back into shows, I'm trying to like bring that kind of shit back. But that guy, he still plays for decent amount, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But it's affordable for somebody like me. But like a lot of the old school people are good, but the festival kind of Steve Aoki, the major dubstep people, they're like obnoxious with their fees.
I mean, I guess from a capitalist perspective, I can't blame them, because how long does that career last? I don't know. Make the money while you still can, I guess. But then again, Steve Aoki was a rich guy to begin with, so.
I mean, Frankie Bones, who we have coming up, he started his career in the early 80s, and we have him playing, I think it had to have been the early to mid 80s.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it was the mid 80s. And we have him, booked, and he plays festivals and stuff too. He's just like a little bit more down to earth than these cats, because like I don't know, he came up with this, when it was like the grimy warehouses, and that was the only places that the big DJs were like allowed to play, because the culture was totally outlawed. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but you're familiar with Joe Biden's role in like criminalizing raves and stuff, right?
I'm really not aware. I wouldn't really think of Joe Biden outside of the fact that he's running for president, though, either, and he's not somebody I'd ever vote for. But what is that?
He's responsible for this thing called the Rave Act, and it basically created this law where anybody who is throwing a rave can get charged with running a crack house, and it counted things like pacifiers and glow sticks and things like that as paraphernalia, which could get you in trouble as well. Yeah, and he couldn't get it passed, right? So then he changed the name of it and he snuck it into the Amber Alert bill, which is like the lost children thing.
I know
so
what
nobody's
Amber Alert is. Oh, Jesus.
So that's how, yeah, dude, you could look that up. Like Rave-Act Joe Biden.
I feel like every time I hear about Joe Biden, like I find out he was part of
something awful.
Yes, yet another awful thing. Like so many, like everything that's awful that we have today, Biden had his hand in.
Yeah, he was definitely like one of the architects of the modern drug war, for sure.
We don't think of, I guess I don't think of like that era as being like anything really. Like, I mean, I was a kid, so I don't remember a whole hell of a lot was growing up.
That's probably why, because I mean, there was crack, there was raves, there was all sorts of wild stuff.
And once again, like I grew up in rural upstate New York, so like we had farms around us, and that's about it. So a lot.
But you didn't know what was going on in New York City?
All right, so I live in Cleveland right now. It is 4 hours from where I grew up. New York City is 8.
Oh, wow.
People have no concept of how fucking gigantic New York State actually is. I'd been to many U.S. cities before, and before I'd ever would have thought of going to New York City, just because it's so far away and so goddamn expensive. Like, that's why we joke with people. Like, you don't, like, people who think of New York as being one place. No, New York City needs to be its own state, like D.C., because it has nothing to do with any other part of that state. It's fucking bonkers. Like, I grew up in a place like, as a for instance, at my high school, I had I had 86 kids in my graduating class. My little brother's was bigger with like 120. And you would drive across my school district would take you an hour and a half from one end to the other.
Wow. To
get that many kids. Like, it used to be like, I think 3 or 4 different school districts that they combined back when they were combining school districts in the 90s, because they'd convince you to combine school districts with like, hey, we'll build you a new school if you combine districts.
Yeah.
You know, more centralization, and they, do it by bribing you with new stuff, new money.
That makes sense. It doesn't make sense.
but
yeah, no, it was it's always weird to have that conversation. Like, I'm lived way closer to a lot of other cities. Like, Pittsburgh was 2 hours away. Buffalo was 2 hours away.
Oh, wow.
That
is
Cleveland's
weird. I mean,
4 hours away. Chicago, I think, is only 6 hours from where I grew up. And that's like 3 states over.
I've driven through the whole state to Albany before, but I didn't realize that like things were located like that. I think
Albany is like 5 hours from where I grew up. Like, yeah, we drove through when we drove up to Porkfest from Cleveland this summer, and it was 11 hours,
something like that,
to get from Cleveland to New Hampshire. And how much of that is New York? Like
most of it.
8 hours of it.
Yeah.
Like it's just gigantic. It only took us 20 hours to drive to Florida.
That's crazy.
So, all right, John, I'm gonna have to get to work. This has been a super fun conversation, and I really appreciate you coming on, because there's a lot of things that I've always kind of wondered about. Never had anyone who would have had any firsthand information on them. So I am really excited to get to read this. And by all means, dude, seriously, if you want to make an audiobook out of it, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to help you with that.
Word, yeah, we'll talk, man.
Any last words, Liz?
No, I dig it. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, guys.
All right, John, you have a good one.
All right, you too.
Everybody's searching for security, living for a check at the end of the week, and I'm not ready. I'm not ready to grow up if that's all it means. Well, I'm far from fearless, and I'm trying to kill this monster looming over me. They say I'm a
Was it this fun? Was it a fun interview, Liz?
Yeah, I totally thought it was a fun interview. And, any interview I can get book recommendations out of and something that will possibly kind of wash the taste of Party Monster out of my mouth. It's probably a good thing.
You know what the beauty is?
What?
Never fucking seen it.
No?
Yeah, the idea of Macaulay Culkin as
I
an
know.
adult has always weirded me out, so I just never
Yeah.
bothered.
I think that's kind of the point, though. Ugh. But anyways,
I mean, he definitely is the weird uncle showing up with crystal meth, right?
I could see him showing up with crystal meth. I don't know if I see him as a relative.
Hey, what, you don't see him as like... You don't ever see him as family, even though he was Kevin McAllister?
No, there was nothing about Kevin McAllister that made you want to like take him into your home.
Yeah, I know, because he destroyed all your shit.
Basically.
He's like the asshole little brother you didn't want.
Yep. But hey, it's Christmas tradition, right?
But hey, he had that cool talk boy in the second movie.
Oh my gosh, so much with the product placement for that thing.
I know. And that weird guy he talks to in the lobby.
Oh, you mean Tim Curry?
Oh, the guy who later wanted to become president.
Oh God, yeah. That's always a funny scene now.
So, anyways, I had a blast talking to Mr. Vibes.
Yeah,
that's what I can
absolutely.
say. It was
Absolutely.
it's a good time.
Do check out his website because he's got all sorts of cool stuff up there. If you're into the scene, like he's got the info and all that stuff.
It's got the docs, Liz. Why don't
Oh.
you get with the program? We
all
say
that
we got
stuff's
the
in our
docs.
show notes.
I'm ripping off punk rock libertarians. You got the docs.
Okay, whatever.
Who's also ripping off Alex Jones.
Okay, sure. Are we going to talk about optics now? Is that still a thing?
Well, my hatred of the fact that people call it optics.
Yeah.
It is a stupid way to use the word.
Yeah, it
Optics is a science. It has nothing to do with
Right.
how things look. That's
Yeah.
called visuals or,
Yeah.
imagery. There are plenty of words that work fine for that. Optics
People
not
just-
being one of
just
them.
like abusing the English language.
Yeah, no, it is literally, it is raping the English language as far as I'm concerned. It
Jeez.
really, really has pissed me off since the first person I heard use it. And it's taken off like wildfire since.
Yeah, it has not gone
I
away.
hate it.
Yeah,
so
what are you going
much.
to do? Anyways,
What are we going to do?
is invite you to like, share, and subscribe the show and check out our site. And also,
Are you going to give out the address of the site, like soundslike.liberty.com or ancapmusic.com?
sure. And you can also chat with us on Facebook in the SLL group there.
Yeah, they could. I'm going to let you hang on this awkward pause, Liz.
I mean, it's only awkward
I'm
if
going to
you make it
impregnate
awkward.
the shit out of this pause.
I don't think it's pregnant at all. This pause is on the pill.
It's fucking terrible. You and your corny ass jokes. What are you even hanging out at church
done.
camp again?
And I'm done.
Put a fork in her, folks. She's pretty juicy. We'll go for that.
God, I gotta
So-
go back to bed now.
Back to bed. I know it's long. Been a long.
Oh man,
Been a long month.
you got me singing that John Mayer song in my head now.
I don't know the song.
Come back to bed. Come on now.
No, I try to ignore John Mayer.
Can't ignore John
Um,
Mayer, especially when he's talking about bed.
So I'm gonna start posting or putting something on here. But if you folks don't know, I mean, I talk about it fairly frequently. But also go check out Free Market Screen Earth if you
Yeah, totally.
want to hear me and Ben Pangy of the homesteads and homeschools talk about the environment from a
I
free
really
market
enjoyed
perspective.
your Christmas episode, actually.
Our ridiculous Christmas
Talking
episode.
about Christmas trees, yeah.
For the record, that one is shorter,
Yeah.
like that series, and
It's
I edit the piss out of it.
Yeah. They try to make it nice and tight. So if you want to hear Nick actually editing a podcast, that's a good one to listen
And if
to.
you want to pay me to edit your podcast,
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because, again,
go to madaudiolab.com.
yeah, we're...
Also, if you want to learn about more libertarian podcasts other than the ones that we preach on here, check out This Week in Liberpods, which after the first of the year, I plan on going balls to the wall with and really kind of ramping up my operation over there.
But yeah, every episode is just like a bite-sized sampling of some of the best Liberty podcasts out there.
And by bite size, I mean literally 5 episodes, 5 minutes of each, basically, every week.
So you can get a taste and, find your new favorite.
Because if you didn't know, there are lots and lots and lots of libertarian podcasts out there.
Apparently, it's a thing.
And you don't know what your new favorite is.
Yeah.
Let's also remind people, like we did at the beginning of the episode, go check out Miss Sherry Voluntary's episode with the Vermin Supreme.
Yeah.
It's a fun time.
Very, very good time. And she runs a lovely podcast over there.
If you're a parent interested in becoming a podcaster, check out Lizzie and I over at parenttopodcaster.com.
True. And
And in an effort to, stroke my own ego, and all of these things can be reached at nickpacone.com.
yes. And you can also send us questions or comments there if you have anything you want to hear, you need to hear, you want more of, you want less of.
Yeah. Nikki P at soundslike.liberty.com. Send it there. Or, any number of the other places.
Yep.
It's a lot of places.
We always appreciate hearing from you, and we really appreciate you listening.
So, I guess, have yourselves a good holiday. Be ready for that special next week. Peace.